Okay, so today we're going to be talking about factoring polynomials, part 2. Yesterday, or the previous lesson, we practiced factoring, and now we're going to continue and see if things are factors. If we have one factor, can we find the remaining factors? And then we're going to graph given factors. So there's lots we're going to do. So there's 3 types of problems, and we're going to do one problem at a time. The first type is to determine if a binomial is a factor. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to use synthetic or long division to see if there is a remainder. If there is one, then it is not a factor. So I need to find out if x plus 5 is a factor of 3x to the 4th plus 15x third minus x squared plus 25. So we're going to do synthetic division. Remember that it's always the opposite of this. So instead of positive 5, it's negative 5. The next thing I need to do is I need to check my exponents. So it goes from 4 to 3 to 2 to none. I'm missing the 1 exponent. So I need to put a 0 there. Without the 0, it's going to give me a wrong answer. So now I write my coefficients: 3, 15, negative 1, 0, 25. Don't crowd. You got plenty of space, so go ahead and use it. Now remember, for synthetic division, you add going down. 3 plus 0 is 3. Now you multiply by what's in the box, which is negative 15. 15 plus a negative 15 is 0. Multiply by what's in the box, which is 0. Negative 1 times, or plus 1 plus 0 is negative 1. Multiply by what's in the box, and that's a positive 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. Multiply by what's in the box, which is negative 25. 25 plus negative 25 is 0. So this is a yes. Because we got a remainder of 0 or no remainder, we know that it's a factor. So again, I started off by putting my number in my box. And remember, it's the opposite. And then you have to make sure that they go in decreasing order. You write the coefficients and use synthetic division. So what I'd like you to do now is I would like you to copy down 1 and 2 and try these. See if you can determine whether or not you think these are a factor. Your coefficients should have been 1, 2, negative 15, 0, and 0. So now I'm going to add going down. 1 plus 0 is 1. Multiplied by what's in the box is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. Multiplied by what's in the box is 15. Negative 15 plus 15 is 0. Multiplied what's in the box is 0. Bring it down. Multiply what's in the box is 0. And I keep getting zeros. So since my final thing is 0, yes, this is a factor. All right, for number 2, you should have started off by putting negative 2 in the box. And it goes from 3 to 2 to 1 to none, so that's good. So it's 1, 2, negative 29, and 42. So 1 plus nothing, or 1 plus 0, is 1. Multiply by what's in the box is negative 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Multiplied by what's in the box is still 0. Negative 29. Multiplied by what's in the box, negative or positive 58. And 42 plus 58 is 110. Or it's actually just 100. I'm off today with my math. So this is a remainder of 100. So that means this is not a factor. So again, when you're determining if something's a factor, you use synthetic division. And if you get a remainder, it's not a factor. Ooh, can't talk. All right, let's go on to part 3. So part 2. Part 2 says that if I give you a factor, can you find the other ones? Well, if I know this is a factor, I'm going to divide out. So I'm going to use synthetic division. So it goes from 4 to 3 to 1. So I'm missing a 2. So it'll be 1, 3, 0, negative 1, negative 3. And I'm going to use synthetic division here. 1, plus nothing is 1. Multiplied by what's in the box is -3. -3 plus 0 is 0, or -3 plus 3 is 0. Multiplied by is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Multiplied by what's in the box, -3. -1 times -3 is -4. Oops, here. Oh, there. I found my mistake. I was worried because I was about to get a remainder. 0 times -3 is 0, which is -1, times by -3, which is +3, which is not a remainder. So now we know that's a factor. It told us it was, but now what we need to do is find our answer. So remember it went with x to the 4th. So that means your answer starts with x to the 3rd. So this is the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1, and none. So this is my other factor, x to the 3rd minus 1. Well, that's a difference of cubes. So that's our sum. Our first one's x, our second one's 1. So first one, second one, first one squared. First one times the second one squared. First sign's the same, second sign's not, last sign's always plus, and here's what you got. So these are the remaining factors, given we already knew what one of them was. So again, what we did was we used synthetic division to find out our polynomial, which was x to the 3rd minus 1, and then you factored that. So we have 3 different examples. Let's start with these 2. Take a second to copy these down and go ahead and use synthetic division. Once you're ready, press play, and then we'll talk about factoring them. So you should have had -1 in the box with a 1, -1, -5, and -3. 1 plus 0 is 1, multiplied by what's in the box. -1 plus -1 is 2, -2, multiplied by what's in the box, which is 2. -5 plus 2 is -3, multiplied by what's in the box, which is 3. So my remainder is 0. So now remember, I started with x to the 3rd, so my answer starts with squared and then an x. So this is what I have. And now that's a trinomial. And remember, trinomials, you factor what times what is 3, subtracts to give you 2. Well, that's 3 and 1. And the only way I can get a -2 is if I have a -3 and a +1. So there are the remaining factors for number 3. For number 4, I should have put 2 in the box. It goes from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, but there's no none, so I'm going to put a 0 there. And so it's going to be 1, -5, -4, 20, and 0. And now I'm going to graph these. Or not graph them, I'm going to use my synthetic form. So 1 plus 0 is 1, multiplied by what's in the box, that's 2. -5 plus 2 is -3, multiplied by what's in the box is -6. -4 minus 6 is -10, multiplied by what's in the box is 20. Oh, it should be -20. It's a +2. So that's 0, 0, 0. So no remainder. I started with x to the 4th. So my answer starts with x to the 3rd, then an x squared, then an x. So now I need to write this out, and I need to try and factor this. So you should recognize there's an x in all of them, so I could take an x out. So it's x to the 3rd, not x to the 3rd, it's x squared minus 3x minus 10. Now I have a trinomial. What times what is 10? Subtracts to give you 3. Well, that's right. It's 5 and 2. And the way you get a -3 is if you have a -5 and a +2. So these are the remaining factors for that problem. All right, the last type of problem that we're going to look at is actually graphing given the factors. Zoom in some. There we go. So now we're going to actually graph it knowing that we have all the factors. So what you do is you start off by graphing the zeros, and it's the opposite of the parentheses. And we've said that all year, it's the opposite of parentheses. And I want you to find the y-intercept by multiplying the numbers. No variables, just numbers. Okay? So what that tells me, this is at -2. This is at +3. This one's at -5. To find the y-intercept, I'm going to multiply my numbers. So 2 times -3 times 5. Well, that's -6 times 5, so that's -30. Now, we're not doing a super technical graph, but we're getting to be more technical than we were before. So the first thing I need to do is I need to know that way down here at -30, my graph's going to touch. So I have my -30, I have a -2. I should graph at a +3, and then a 3, 4, 5, a -5. So I started to make the graph a second ago, but I had in the wrong spot, so we need to fix that. And so now I know that it's going to end going up, so I'm thinking it's going to go something like this. It goes down, up, and then down. There we go. I fixed my mistake. I couldn't see what I did, and then I noticed that I had a negative. Okay, so again, you find the zeros, which are the opposite of parentheses. You find the y-intercept by multiplying the numbers. And then you graph those things, and you make your curve go through there. Okay, and this may not be a minimum, but we're just going to say that it is, and we don't know how high it is. We could find that out by doing some other math stuff, but right now we're just practicing with the general shape of it to get a good understanding. Okay, so let's do some examples of this. We're going to do two examples. So what I want you to do is I want you to first start off by finding your zeros, and then finding your y-intercept, and let's try and graph it. And then we're actually going to do a third one, number 8, which is a little trickier. So I should have a -5, a +3, and a -1. So 3. Oops, and this should be a -1. I keep making mistakes on that. And then the way I'm going to find my y-intercept is I'm going to multiply all my numbers. So numbers without variables. So 2 times 5 is 10, times -3 is -30, times 1 is -30. So I'm down here again. And it's positive, so it's probably going to do about the same thing. Go down, up, and down. And that's the gist of what my graph is. And again, it could be a little different, but I want to make sure it passes through those points. Okay, for number 7, I have an x at -2. I have an x at 4 and another x and 4. So at -2. Now, I have the same answer twice. So when I have the same answer twice, what that means is that it touches at that one spot. So it's either going to be above it or it could be below it. It just depends on the curve. So now let's multiply our numbers to find out where we cross. -4, 2, -4, and -4. So -4 times 2 times -4 times -4, -128. So way down here. So it's negative, so that means it ends going down. So it's actually going to be this way. And because it's the same answer twice, that's why it touches it like this. It doesn't actually go through it. It just comes up and touches it. All right, and then the reason I wanted to show you number 8, because of this. If you don't have a plus or minus, it's just 0. And then this is 2, -1, and 3. And when I graph these, you're going to see that this, x is 0, that is the y-intercept. So for this one, my y-intercept is 0. So if you ever get a 0, that's also your y-intercept. And then I have a 2, and I have a -1, and I have a +3. Now this has 4 x's, so it should be a w, and it goes up. Oops, and I missed that last point. Okay. So this lesson had a lot of things. The first thing it had was being able to determine if something's a factor, and if you get a remainder, it's not a factor. The second part was when you had to find the remaining factor, so you had to use synthetic division to find an answer and then factor. And the third part was finally graphing things when you had factors.